Hello and welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 395th New Social Environment. I'm Tyhe Cooper, a production and events assistant here at the Rail, and I have the pleasure and privilege of being your MC today for a conversation between Katia Santibañez and Lilly Wei. We will conclude with a poetry reading from Anselm Berrigan's Pregrets. And now we've started all of our events here at the Rail with two important acknowledgements. The first is that here in New York, we are on the Nape-Hoking, the unceded land and waters of the Wappinger, Canarsie, Munsee, and Lenni Lenape people of the Delaware Nation and Shinnecock Indian Nation. The second is an acknowledgement that Black Lives Matter. The heart of both of these acknowledgements is a commitment to the liberation of the oppressed and solidarity for all who struggle for freedom, in recognition that when it comes to liberation, our histories never unfold in isolation, as said by the great Angela Davis. In that spirit, I encourage you all to check out the chat in just a moment for a living document of resources and actions. And now to introduce today's guest and host. American artist born in France, Katia Santibañez lives and works in Otis, Massachusetts and New York, New York. Her current solo exhibition at DC Moore Gallery, Lumens Anima, is up through October 9th, 2021. Lilly Wei is a New York-based independent curator, writer, journalist, and critic who writes on global contemporary art and emerging art and artists, reporting frequently on international exhibitions and biennials. And now, Lilly, please take it away.
Thank you, Tyhe. Thank you, Brooklyn Rail, and hello, Katia.
Hello, Lilly.
I think we'll start off with a walkthrough, a virtual walkthrough of Katia's exhibition, Lumens Anima at DC Moore. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to see it, this is at least one way to get an overview. And I'm sure, like many of you, I was just very grateful to be able to see work in person again. So if you get a chance, as it was mentioned, the show is up through October 9th. So anyway, maybe Nick, we can just kind of amble through. So to begin with, Katia, I just thought I would ask you, because I'm a writer and I'm always interested in words, where the title came from, Lumens Anima.
Yeah. First I wanted to say hello to everybody and thank you for the Rail and DC Moore and you, Lilly, to do this. I can't see myself, so I don't know, but I can see the painting. I can see you, Lilly. I want the switch camera. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, yes, the title. The title, well, actually, maybe the title is a collaboration with James, my wonderful partner, James Siena, and we were walking in the woods, and we were talking about my upcoming show, and coming up with a title. So we were talking about the work, and he said, "What about a title in Latin?" And I thought, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." So then what is about the work? The work, it's about, well, trees and also the spiral. But when I walk in the woods or along the woods of the forest, I see the light, and the light that the trees, the space between the branches or reflecting to me. And during this pandemic, I was trying to find first a light in my paintings, like producing paintings and drawings and other things. And because this moment was so dark, I needed to bring light into my life and my mind and the world, and also into my work. So so that's when I did some research online and in my mind, and came up with Lumens Anima. So that's the title of the show. Yeah.
And lumens means but light, but it also is a kind of hollow, right? I mean, it's a space.
Yeah. It's also connected to the soul. So it's the soul of the trees. I mean, our souls. Yeah, and anima is, animated and animated, or the the nature of the natural world, but also ourselves. I mean, I think we are. I mean, I always think, and more and more I think that we are so connected to the trees and to nature. Where, we're part of the same world. Yeah.
Well, that was great. And also just as a thing, I mean, the anima in Latin is, well, it's life, it's alive. As you said, it was vibrant, but it's also connected to the Greek psyche, which is, also what goes on, in the soul and the mind. So, but okay, so this is a work from 2019. Just jumping back a little bit, was there a transition point, I mean, between some of your earlier work and to this body of work that encompasses the trees and the Spyros? For example, when we were many years ago, when we were neighbors in Tribeca, and you had that little studio, and you were making these incredibly meticulous, incredibly time intensive, work. And in fact, I wondered how you ever finished, was there a transition between that? And while this, of course, I'm sure takes a great deal of time, it seems that your scale has gone up, and, so can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So as you said, my studio in Tribeca was, it was very small, and I had that studio for 12 or 15 years. And I loved that studio. It was small, but I had, that studio, I had a shaft window. So every day I went to my studio and I arrived there in the morning, and I had no lights. I mean, that's, the electrical light all day long. And it didn't bother me at all. So I was working already from natural forms, natural elements, and the trees already, and other elements of nature, and also the spiral. And the scale was smaller. It was maximum like 25 by 25. So my studio was small. It was maybe 200 square feet. So when you have a small studio, I thought, you can just make small work. And then I started to, I joined DC Gallery, and inside me, I always wanted to make larger work. So then I left Tribeca and I moved to the Bronx and found a larger studio. It was not super large, but it was 450 square feet, and had 2 large windows. And I had the view, I was looking at Manhattan. It was just, every day I had those amazing sunsets with amazing colors during the sunset. So I moved to the Bronx in 2018, I believe. I think that's what it is. Yeah, May 2018. So there was a big shift between being, I always think I was like in a cave because all day there was no, I couldn't tell what was the weather, if it was sunny or I could hear the rain. So, and then I moved to the Bronx and I have those two views of, I mean, Manhattan, and I could see the space, I could see more light. So I think it had an impact on the work. First, the scale, and also the light and maybe the colors, and also the when I think about the other work, like the trees paintings that I was doing before, the trees were more rigid. So now the trees are more open. For me, they look like, sometimes I think about my whole body and my arms and my legs, my whole body. And I feel like the trees are also connected to my body. So the trees are really like, instead of being rigid and straight, it was more like a grid before. And now the grid is breathing and expanding. You can see the branches, they are, you know, they want to go out. I mean, out and around. They're not rigid anymore.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I hadn't really thought of them as circulatory systems and, you know, and body systems, but yes, you know, you had said that this Under the Rising Moon was a little bit different. Did you mean as a kind of beginning point for a new body, for your, you know, more recent body of work? Because this was, as I said, 2019, and actually before the pandemic, so you were still up in the Bronx, right?
Yeah, I was still in the Bronx. It was actually the result, like the finished painting, was a surprise for me, because when I look at the painting, it has like a three-dimensional aspect of view. There's a lot of depth, and I think it's because of the color. You know, the green and the red and the yellow. There's something going on that I don't see in other paintings. I mean, maybe somebody can explain to me why, but I don't know. I think it's because of the colors.
But did you use that kind of a palette before? You know, we're looking at the progressive stages of Katia's making of this painting, and we'll be doing that for the next several paintings. Because when I asked her, we were talking about process, and she said, "Oh yes, she had taken photos, you know, because now it's so easy to do with your iPhone." and this is an ad for iPhone, a plug, but that you can just go, you know, through. So this is what we're looking at, and she's been taking the different stages. And so, you know, perhaps you could also talk a little bit about that as we go through. There's about 4 or 5 of them, I think, right?
Yes, yeah. No, I really love to take those progression. I mean, I don't do it all the time. I do it more for the paintings than the drawings, because the paintings take longer to take. I mean, I have done for a few drawings, but I think, I mean, the phone for that, the iPhone or whatever, to take the progression is, I think it helps to just like think about, I mean, I think it's important for the viewer, but also for myself. I mean, I usually don't erase anything, so.
So do you start out with underdrawing? I mean, this like, you know, black and white kind of network?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. Like now, I mean, with this new work also, yeah, because before there was the grid, so I was dividing the panel of, I mean, I was working from wood before on wood panel. Now I work on canvas. It's different, and also because I enlarged the work. I did 40 by 40 inches wood panel paintings, but they were becoming heavier. So when I started to make 80 by 70 inches painting, I switched to canvas. It was much lighter. And I use those aluminum stretchers. So I can lift, you know, like 80 by 70 painting very easily. So, but before I was dividing with a ruler, I was dividing the painting like 1 inch. I was making a grid with the pencil. I never used the pencil to draw on the canvas or the wood. So, so now I don't divide the painting anymore. I just dive in with the brush, and I usually start on the edge, the vertical edge on both edges, and then I divide the painting usually in the middle, and then I move towards the edges and draw the vertical lines, and then I draw with the brush the diagonal or diagonal or horizontal lines. And then the spaces are large at the beginning, and then little by little they become smaller and smaller.
You mean, yeah, so then from that wow, okay. Just back to the palette briefly.
Yes.
So has that changed a lot? Because it just seems that, these are like lighter and more about light. I was thinking about your palette, and I realized finally that maybe in a way they're just a record. I mean, they're based in nature. They're based in seasons and times of day. Is that what they are doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think yeah, I think it depends if I spend, I think the colors are more connected to the colors from nature. Because I have made some paintings like back in 2013, like a tree. I remember making these paintings. It was a tree motif, and actually the verticals were green, and then the space between the horizontal and the vertical, the space were like blue, and in the center of the painting, it was yellow. And somebody said, actually, I made that painting when I was at the Albers Foundation. I mean, I wish we had the photograph, but, and somebody said, oh, somebody had a reaction to my painting, and it said, oh, I feel like I look through trees, and there's the sky, and then in the middle, there's also the water. And now I'm using colors that I think, more related to the colors of nature.
Or to natural phenomenon. Maybe we can move to the next image. This is the Delight of Solitude, which is perhaps, a nocturnal scene or a dawn. Yeah. Would you?
Yeah. Yeah, so this painting, I think I started maybe in the Bronx, and then I brought the painting to Otis, Massachusetts. So the studio is different there. It's small and narrow. Like you can see, like I work at night a lot over there. I mean, not because I can do it, because I live and work in the same house and the space. So like after dinner, for example, I go back to my studio and work until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So I have to use the light. You know, I can step out and I will be, you know, in the garden, and I can look at the sky and it's pitch black. I can see the stars at night. So that's, I think my paintings, it depends of where I am, but I think it has an impact on the colors I'm going to use, not necessarily the shape or like, but I think this painting was more related to the night.
So then they look very much like stained glass. And I think you've discussed that and how stained glass has been an influence on your work. That perhaps, yeah. You said Sainte-Chapelle, but I don't know why. I mean, even though the configuration is different, but I think of the, you know, the famous blue light of Chartres rather than, you know, Sainte-Chapelle is much more multicolored. But yeah, and then you talked about the Sagrada Familia also, but so.
Yeah, yeah, I think, well, I mean, because I grew up in Paris, I went to Notre Dame many times. I mean, when I was a student in art school, we had to, I mean, I went to Notre Dame, we did some drawings about the architecture. And then there's also this Sainte-Chapelle also in Paris that I've visited many times. And then I also went to Spain, in Barcelona, and went to the Sagrada Familia. So I feel like, yeah, it was yeah, the stained glass has had more of an impact on my work. I think it because I grew up with it, but maybe because I'm, because of maybe, I think maybe because of the pandemic, we were supposed to go to France twice and we had to cancel the trip. And maybe because, I don't know, I'm older, or like I think about my Paris more, so I'm trying to reconnect with the past. Even though
which brings us to memories. Let's, you know.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, memories. Yeah, I mean, memories. You know, and also because, you know, when I think about trees, they also have a memory. I mean, you know, we all know that, you know, you can count, you know, their age, and I think now you can. I mean, it was so connected, you know, like they have roots. I have roots. You know, when I used to do yoga, it was completely, you know, the idea of being connected to trees, and it was working. So it was perfect. So yeah, the memories, and maybe because of the pandemic also, like thinking about people dying, and you know, people didn't have connections with their families.
We have the next image, maybe, so we have memories too. Like the next image is memories.
Right.
Okay, there, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm sorry, go ahead, Katia.
Yeah, so yeah, I started to connect more with my memories. Like, I think the past and my childhood, relationship with my father and my sister, and also, you know, because I was born in France, I grew up in France, and I came to the States in 1990, and also like here, going back to stained glass, because France is an older countries, and the church, like Sainte-Chapelle is from the 13th century. You can't, I never saw any stained glass here that are connected to the Sainte-Chapelle. So I was trying to bring in my studio, the stained glass, like trying to bring the stained glass into my paintings and my work. And maybe we find a place here because I couldn't go back to France or Spain.
You can go to the cloisters.
Yeah, but then we went to Otis. So like, yeah.
Well, these trees, they're trees and they're grids, and you used to use grids a lot. More rectilinear. Or geometric images anyway. So when did you decide to make your trees grids or your grids trees? And was that enhanced by being up in Otis during the pandemic and in the forest, this past year and a half?
I think it happened slowly, and I'm not sure I remember when I really changed that. I think it was a progression, because before in 2017, it started with not with the tree, but there was a painting that was shown at DC Moore in 2018, I believe it was in May, and it was a grid, and in each square there was I used a spiral also. So in each square there was a little spiral, and the grid started to change, was less rigorous. The grid was still there, but then things started to be dissolved, like the grid started to be distorted also, and it was not with the trees yet. And I tried to think about why the distortion happened. I think maybe because I wanted to be more free from the grid, because the grid can be rigid. So, I need to push it away a little bit, but I don't want to leave it. So, I'm still attached to it, and but I want to stay in it because it helps to maybe focus, and
it's a great structuring. It's a great structuring device, right?
Yeah.
For you, well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like what was I lost my thread.
You can run it back.
Well, also politically, there was a lot of chaos. There's still chaos. I don't think we'll get out of the chaos anytime soon. But I think maybe the grid started to be pushed out because I was maybe angry also at what was happening. especially after 2016. And at the same time, I wanted to, keep a certain grid, like, because it helps for the structure. Yeah. So now the grid is a little distorted, but more open also.
Well, it's also like a framing device. I mean,
yeah.
So, yeah. And again, like maybe the distance between what's real and what's not, what's nature and what's not, what's geometric and what's biomorphic. I mean, I think you have a lot of that in play right now in your work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. And maybe we'll look at the last of the tree series, which is also a little bit different. And this is the most recent one, right? The folding memory.
Yes.
2021, right? Yeah. So
that's right. Yeah.
Oh, it's a square. So I'm also thinking about when you choose to use a square, a near square, and then your vertical format. Maybe discuss that.
Oh yeah.
Too.
I see on the screen the dimension of the painting is not.
Oh, that's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. It's 48 by 48.
Yeah, it's yeah. So it's a square.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is yeah. We're showing the progression. Usually at the beginning of when I start the painting, I have an idea or I choose colors. So for this painting, I chose the green and the yellow. I wanted to, express also like to see what the green and the yellow would do. And then I look at the painting, I keep painting, and I'm not happy with the painting. It's just the yellow doesn't do it for me. So then I decided I thought, okay, I have to resolve this painting. So I changed. I thought, okay, what about maybe I should, add some white to the yellow, and that's what happened. And in this painting, it's interesting to see that the seed or those little they're not dots, they're little seeds, but they're floating more in this painting than in others. So I think I decided to the structure of the painting is a little different. It looks more like beads, and I think because when I started to paint, they almost look like necklace in a way, but I don't. I think this painting is calmer than others. Like the movement is not happening. It's a different mood. And I also did this painting in March and April. I can see the light in my studio. Like there's a little bit of sun, but it's also kind of cloudy, and it's in the winter. So outside there was probably still a lot of snow. And I think sometimes, or oftentimes, the weather has an impact on my painting, especially in Otis, because I step out and it's nature, it's the woods. It's not like I'm not in New York. Like when I step out, it's like it's the city. The setup is completely different. So in a way, the being in Massachusetts allows me to embrace the climate or the weather differently than in New York City.
You're becoming a nature painter. Yeah.
Yeah.
A Hudson Valley painter. Anyway, so yeah, and then I guess the one last thing is, you know, if you're going back to the cathedral, I mean, the fact that the Gothic cathedral very much resembles, you know, the canopy trees, the overarching branches of trees, and so you put like nature and art, you know, they tend to go together fairly often.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And then if we go to the second part of the show, the second thematic images is the Spyro. And could you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, the Spyro, it started in 2012. James and I, we spent 4 months on an island in the south of France. It was not, well, we call it our own residency because it was not a residency. We just like rented out an apartment and we set up a studio, and it was in the south of France. And every day we were running, and then I saw that there was a lot of snails, dead snails most of the time. And this actually brought me back to, you know, my memories of my childhood when I was, 10 or 8. And my parents, we had a house in the country. And in France, after the rain, you go outside in your garden and you get the snails, and then you cook them and then you eat them. So the Spyro, I started to, in a way, fall in love with the Spyro, and there was a lot of references also to other artists and art history that people use the Spyro image. So the Spyro has been in my life for quite a while, and this Spyro was, well, this painting was made in the Bronx, and I just I chose to make it with blue colors, and maybe the blue as well. It can have a relationship with the sky of New York City because it's oftentimes blue, but also maybe of the mood. So, like here, I drew the spiral, but just the lines, and it's a double spiral. It's 2 spirals like overlapping and going to different opposite direction. So I started at the edge of the canvas. I was challenging also. I was challenged because I had decided to do it, use the squares. And I'd make a lot of paintings using squares. It's a challenge, but also I like the format. And then you see, I can talk about those little white dots.
Yeah.
Because it's because I use so many colors. I mean, there's so many, not colors, but it's maybe 20 different hues, and so I get lost and I get overwhelmed because I start to paint and then I have to go back on certain areas, and I use so many different blues that I don't know. I mean, I know which one it is, but sometimes they're so close to each other that I can't make the difference. So I have to label the little containers where I have my paint, and then I have to label where I put the paint also. So that's why there's all those little white dots. And then I go little by little, I go to the center with lighter and lighter colors. And something happened also with this painting is, I mean, when I paint, I move the painting, like I need to move the painting around. And for this painting, I had, when I finished the painting, I had a hard time to figure out which direction it was good for me. And I keep turning the painting around. And so actually when I painted this painting, it was the opposite direction. But I think it works better like this.
It's a kind of curious blend of as I said, a kind of natural force, and then but that's been completely stylized and made into well, something that's more artificial or art, an art object. But it also, it looks like I think you talked about Spyros as a kind of it had a sense of danger for you, of catastrophes, and I think I read that somewhere. Is that if trees are perhaps your safe space, or are Spyros the chaotic space, or the danger zone?
Yeah, I mean, they're both. I think about hurricanes, I think about floodings, and I think about the fires. I mean, this year and the year before, there's more and more fires, there are more and more hurricanes and floodings, and it seems like that's where we're going. So there, it's very strange. I feel like, the spirals is also a place to be. Like, I can go in the spiral and I can go in one way and I can go out. I can go in different directions. And the trees, yeah, maybe the trees are, like you say, like a safer place to be, even though, they are in danger. And I mean, they really, really are in danger. I mean, this summer we are in Otis, Massachusetts, and we walk on this road where there's trees, and they're installing cables so people can have their internet connection. And because the cables are outside, they're not in the ground, so they're cutting trees to protect the cables. I mean, the trees are in perfect condition, they're not dying, but they kill so many trees, and it makes me very angry. And yeah, so this spiral is yeah, I wanted
a smaller one, right? It's from 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to challenge, I always try to challenge myself. So since I was making those large paintings, I wanted to go back to the smaller paintings. And there's also physically and mentally for myself, for the viewer, a difference between when I work or when I look at the small scale and the large scale. When I paint, this small scale, I can embrace the painting. Like I'm bigger than the painting. And when it's the large scale, it's more like the big painting is embracing me. And it's a little bit also what the subject is doing. Like, you're in there's a tornado or a hurricane, and the hurricane, you have no power with this hurricane, and we're just going to be, swallowed by it. And then the trees, when I walk in those trees, I mean the forest, you know, they're here to protect me, or most of the time protect me.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like this Blakean notion of, you know, holding infinity in the palm of your hand, so that scale is relative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then maybe we should go on to the some of the drawings, because well, these are the ink drawings. Oh, okay, this is, yeah, excuse me, these are the pencil drawings. And I was just curious how you might use the drawings you make in your paintings, how they become incorporated. I think we're a little behind here or a little ahead here, but this is another version of, you know, progression of variation 20, except one more. Yeah, okay, there we go.
Yep.
Okay, so here are some pencil and colored pencil drawings, and I guess here the structure is pretty clear. But talk about how you use them.
Can you go back to? Because can you go back to the pencil drawing, please?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Great, thank you. Yeah, so this drawing, I did it in 2017, maybe, or 18, something like that. So I use, I mean, I can go on about this. They are, I usually don't make a drawing and then think, okay, I'm going to make the same for a painting. For me, they're just like studies, and I use different kind of pencils. So the effect, you know, I work with like this transparency of two different pencils that will overlap, and then there's transparency, which actually I don't do with paintings. And sometimes I make, I mean, this drawing was in 2017, I think. So, you know, there's usually I make smaller drawings, are usually smaller size than the paintings. But they I mean, they help me for the construction of the paintings.
I don't know how to shut off. Okay.
There we go.
Sorry, I thought I turned off everything. Someone's being really insistent. Okay. Anyway. Yeah.
So this is another drawing. It has, I mean, here it's more, you know, the grid is more, you can see the grid here. It's more obvious than to the previous one.
It looks like a rib cage almost.
It is, yeah.
Back to body, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's true. It's just, I mean, like I said before, you know, like, I mean, I see, you know, so many similar things between trees and ourselves, you know, like, I mean, the trees are the lungs of our planet, you know, and so, you know, that's, I don't know, like, I feel like, you know, this could be myself and, you know, my rib cage.
Well, they're our first line of defense, right? At this point, we need them desperately.
Yes, yeah.
We should all go out right now and plant one, but
yeah. Well, it's something I started to do when we arrive in, I mean, we've been going to Otis, Massachusetts since 15 years or 16 years now. But it was always like short time, like 3 days, you know, except maybe in the summer for a month. But when we arrived in March 2020, I started to hug trees. That, you know, there was James, but my friends were not there. I mean, I couldn't hug anybody else. So it was James. And then I thought, I'm just going to hug a tree. And that's what I did every day.
And I'm sure he wasn't jealous either.
No.
He hugged with you, I think.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, maybe we'll just get on to the, I asked you, you know, when we were talking about, you know, how it is to live with with an artist. I mean, how does that work with a fellow artist and someone whose sensibility is not so far removed from yours, which also makes a certain sense anyway. But and then you said, oh, but you sometimes do collaborations, not often, but you do. And just to say, there is a show up now at Pamela Salisbury in Hudson, New York, and there's a collaboration between Katia and James. And so we have two examples of that, and perhaps you could discuss that a little bit too. I mean, I said, do you happen to go into your studio all the time? Do you do crits, or do you just, you know, just casually interact? And you said it was more casual, but then of course you do collaborations. So talk about that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great to talk about this. Yeah, so we usually don't do studio visit, like, you know, like we do studio visit with other artists, or, you know, you, or, you know, the gallery. And but we talk about, of course, we talk about art, or sometimes we'll I mean, it's, you know, like also, well, because of the pandemic, you know, we were in this house, you know, 24 hours and every day. So it was very different than being in New York, when my studio was in the Bronx, James' studio was in Brooklyn, and then we meet at night, you know, to eat, to listen to the news and have conversation. But also there's another collaboration that we do, although during the pandemic I was not that good at that, but we sing together. So James plays music, he plays guitar, and we sing together different like songs, like in French, in Italian, English. So that's another collaboration we're doing. And then we both make prints, and then I think one day I said, why don't we make collaboration? So May Shaw said, we asked her, and she said, yes, sure. So we started to do it, and it was it's a great experience. We're making two more right now, and they're actually double size than this one. And the thing is, like, we started two blocks, and I work on one block, James starts the other block. It's like A and B, and then because they are linoleum, oh, that's also not linoleum reduction, it's wood reduction. So right, so because it's a reduction, the block is getting there's less and less wood. So we remove every time we remove some wood, and we print the whole edition, and then we carve again, and so on and so on. And so what we do also, it's very easy. I mean, easy. No, we have the block A, the block B. I work on the block A, James on the block B, and then we choose the color. I choose the color for the block B, and he chooses the color for the block A, and then we swap the block until it's done. It's challenging because I don't know what he's doing, and he doesn't know what I'm doing. until we print each color. And yeah, it's a little bit like playing chess, even though I don't play chess, but it's like, you know, you make one move, I make one move.
It's like life.
Yeah. No, it's a great, we love to do that. I mean, it's, yeah, and every time, like, it's a great experience. I mean, I love doing this. And then also, you know, Mei Shaw is a great master printer, and she makes things easier, and we have fun when we, you know, we spend, like yesterday, we spent the whole day together working on one color. I mean, two colors for one block, so for two blocks, sorry. Yeah.
Well, for those of you who feel like taking a trip upstate, not only James and Katia are at Pamela Salisbury, but she has a full house, you know, full of painters, or yeah, mostly, aren't they all painters, I think? So please go and see that too. And then I just thought I'd ask you one last question. You talked about immigration, and since it's a theme that's, or, you know, a topic that's on a lot of people's mind, practically everyone's mind these days. You know, I was just thinking that the idea that many artists, you know, want to make a sense of place, and that the way you approach things, I mean, this kind of meticulous, almost like you don't want to let go, you know, that you, and that, is it like a creation of, you know, of a space, a place, something that you can possess, define, shape in your work? I mean,
yeah, I mean, this is something I've been thinking about maybe since I'm a little girl, but then you know, my father already was an immigrant, like, you know, he moved from Spain to France when he was 10 years old. He was not really accepted in France. It was just after the Second World War. So he never really felt French, even though, you know, I mean, he's French, although he never became a citizen, a French citizen. He didn't want to do that. So he's always Spanish. You know, he's gripping to his roots. But he lives in France. And I left France not because I was threatened. I came here on my own, although I was illegal for 7 years. And in 2016, I became an American citizen. And I've been thinking about that because I think Anna Arendt, she talked about this, like she came from Germany, and then I think momentarily she went to France, and then in the States. But I remember hearing some interviews, and she never felt really American, even though, you know, she was American. So there's, I mean, sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, but more and more, like, I feel like I belong to, like, I have roots everywhere. Like, I have roots in Spain, I have roots in France, and I have roots here. And then at the same time, when I go back to France, sometimes I speak French, and people say, "Oh, it's funny, you have an accent." I'm like, I have an accent? So I don't have an American accent. I don't know where they're coming from with this, you know, like, I mean, I have a strong French accent when I speak English, and it's fine. I love accent. But I think maybe also, you know, that's why I go back to the trees, because the trees have roots. And even though, I mean, you know, like trees, they can't move like we move, you know, like, although they can be, many trees are coming from Europe or Asia or, Africa. So they all, they move from one country to the other one, but they can't move by themselves. Although, seeds and, seeds are, they can move by themselves or the help of the birds or, wind and, so I think it's inside. It's definitely incorporated in my work.
Well, I think we should all aspire to be, a citizen of the world, and maybe once all the craziness is behind it, maybe one day we'll. A utopian dream, I guess, but maybe one day we will. Anyway, I think we are ready for questions if anyone has them. Tyhe, you're in charge of that?
I'm on it.
Thank you, Katia.
Oh, thank you too, Lily.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Katia
you.
and Lily.
Thank you too. It was good.
It really has been so lovely to hear you in conversation today and talking about, I know I was sort of being a fanatic about your drawings in the pre-check earlier, and to hear you talk about them has been lovely. We have a few questions that have just come in. I'm going to go to our first question from Lynn Crawford. Lynn, you should be able to unmute now.
Thank you. This has been fabulous. This conversation and this work is just amazing, exhilarating. And I wanted to ask you, the trees are so clearly a life force, as you said, and as the viewer can see. And I wondered about the spirals, what kind of force, they have their own kind of force. And I was wondering how you would describe that possibly, or what the similarities and differences are between the two forms of energy.
I actually, since I'm working, this, especially for this exhibition, it's, the spirals and the trees. When I was working on the paintings, sometimes I had some doubts, because I thought, okay, there's the spirals, the trees, what do they have in common? Or maybe they have nothing in common. But then I started to, talk to friends about it. And, but little by little, when I was looking at the trees and looking at the spiral, I could see actually a spiral when I was looking at trees, I don't know if that makes sense, but
sure, yeah.
The energy that, a tree is, it starts with the roots and it just go around, and I can see this energy I can see the spiral around the tree, and it just go up and up and up. And I see it more like going in one direction than the other direction, but maybe it goes in both directions. And actually, there's one painting in the exhibition. It's the last painting. It's a small painting. It's called Summer Hours. And when I started, it's a tree motif. And when I started to draw the trees, I thought, I've been thinking about this connection between the spiral and the trees, and how can I just put them more together? And what I did is I took my brush and I drew a spiral on the trees, and then I followed the spiral to create some kind of a movement and use only one color, and so that you can see more the spiral inside the tree. Yeah, it's completely abstract, but yeah, so if you follow the blue, the blue color, you can see you know, the spiral inside on the painting.
It's beautiful. I have to tell you, this is probably crazy, but it seemed romantic to me, their connection. Thank you.
It's very romantic.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn, for that question. Thank you, Katia, for such a kind and open answer. I'm so glad to hear that your relationship with trees is so lovely. I was really loving the talk about hugging the tree every day. I think that's really sweet. And I could, like, while you were saying it, I was really feeling that.
Yeah, I mean, I recommend to do it, you know, and when I'm in the city, it's harder to hug a tree, although it's funny because I'm not in the same environment. So actually I swim in the morning, and so I don't take those walks anymore. So I'm not in the forest. I don't live near Central Park. That would be easier. But I took, before the YMCA was reopened, I took some walks on the East River Park, and it was really amazing. And unfortunately, they want to destroy the East River Park. They have to make some construction. So when we have floodings, like it has to protect the people living near the East River Park. Unfortunately, apparently, they're going to destroy hundreds of trees. So they have to find a solution not to do this. But this walk was so beautiful. And then every time I went back, on my way back, I tried to find a tree and hug it. So, but there was people around me, and I was like, okay, I hope, you know, whatever, you know, I hug a tree. Everybody should hug a tree. It feels good.
I agree wholeheartedly. That's so, when I was a kid, and my grandmother lives in Windsor Terrace, and I would go and I would relate heavily the trees, the big Brooklyn trees, right, with the like breaking bark, to being with my grandmother, and I would hug those, and yeah, it's a similar feeling. So it's so nice to hear you talk about it. We are now going to, I feel like I snuck a question in there somehow. I don't remember doing that, but we are now going to go to our next question from GE. GE, you should be able to unmute now.
Thank you so much, Katia and Lily. I have really enjoyed quietness of this kind of nourishment and enlightenment kind of conversation, and that constant energy that's been coming through it. I want to ask, how are crises and constraints, even though they're difficult at times for any or all of us, how are they necessary for artists in general, and how has your path of creating art been affected by crises and constraints?
You mean during the pandemic or in general?
General, yeah, certainly during the pandemic, because that looms in front of us, and you've spoken a bit on that, but I was even thinking of even the larger things of life, of existential kinds of things and things like that, and was wondering, because I mean, these themes that you have are so deep on so many levels, and so it's so giving and branching out, just as the trees are themselves, and spiraling in or out depending on the spirals, that there seems to be so much that that may be connected to, you know, the kind of constraints we have, and you know, and the crises we endure.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking more about, unfortunately, like death, maybe. So I think, for me, it's, you know, if I make art, how can I put it? Like art survive most of the time if there's no fire or flooding. I mean, when I'm going to be dead, you know, hopefully my work will still be alive. So I think for me, it's important to make art and to, you know, present, you know, my emotions, my feelings, and I'm not the only one to feel that way. So it's like for me it's a duty. I mean, and also, like, you know, bringing this light into my paintings or working with the Spyro. For me, my duty is to try maybe to change the world. I mean, and it's not just artists, like visual artists, but a lot of people have been writing books about that. I mean, I think about Susan Seymour and also Richard Powers. Actually, Richard Powers has a new book, and is also, I just saw today, I didn't listen to him yet, but he has, there's a conversation with Ezra Klein in the New York Times. And I feel very connected to what he says. And I think, yeah, I think, yeah, those things are so connected to us. I mean, even living in a city, there are trees, you know, I mean, New York City has been through, you know, hurricanes, and I mean, the last storm was pretty crazy. I mean, people die. I mean, it just, yeah, I don't know. It's I want to say my job, but yeah, it's I mean, there's nothing else that I want to do. I just, like, I have to do this.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh
no, that's right. And in a sense, even though our biology is different, we're kind of like trees, and trees are like us.
Yes.
You were showing that in that one wonderful graphite that you had that looked like, you know, rib cage and spine and structure, and the biology, you know, was different, but we're all interconnected, and you know, we're very much mirrors of each other, even though our biology is different.
Yeah. Years ago, I read this book from the Hidden Life of Trees.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, and it's a wonderful book. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, thank you too.
Thank you, G and Katia. I'm loving all of these musings on trees. We are now going to go to a question from Andrew Ginzel. Sorry if I'm saying your last name incorrectly. You should be able to unmute now. Oh, here, wait, there we go. If you click, hang on, we can't hear you yet, Andrew. If you press, one moment. If you press you should be getting, yeah, if you press the little button, there you go.
Hi, Katia.
Hey, Andrew.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you to reflect upon Birchfield and your thoughts about the dynamic between the two shows, and sort of the spectral quality that you both bring to a sort of observation of the environment.
Yeah. Well, I was so honored I am honored to show with Birchfield. You know, I mean, in France, I didn't know about Birchfield because it's France. It was a while ago. And I saw his show years ago. I can't remember the year. It was I think it was at MoMA. But anyway, I love I mean, this exhibition is, it means a lot for me because, I mean, Birchfield, he made, I mean, those doodles and those sketches are very, they have, I think they have a lot of humor that I don't have. so he brings something to my world that that I don't express. And of course, he lived. You know, I wonder what kind of work he would do now. You know, with the climate change, like, you know, I mean, you know, Thoreau already talked about climate change. He had notes about. So, you know, was Birchfield aware of that? I don't know.
Well, there's that sort of transcendental attachment to nature that Thoreau had, and that sense that there's a kind of vibrancy and energy that's innate in that, in sense you can channel it or feel it, or which Birchfield certainly seemed to, especially in the best of the works, really radiate that kind of energy.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when I see his trees, and, you know, when he works also with, like the trees are becoming clouds. And the clouds are going inside the branches. I think they're almost like psychedelic. Yeah, I feel so connected to him.
Another good book to mention is Entangled Life by Merlin and Chandra.
Yeah, I read that one. Although I listened to it because I listen to a lot of books. Yeah, it's a great book too. Yeah, all those fungi and mushrooms. Yep. Yeah.
I think I'm going to need to come back through this talk and write down all of these books to make a reading list for us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew, for that question, and thank you, Katia, for your answer. We are now going to go to final remarks from our very own Phong Bui. Phong, you should have the mic now.
Thank you, Katia.
Oh, thank you, Phong. Great to see you.
Me too. And thank you, Lilly, for the lively conversation. I'm sorry I was in a meeting, so I only came to the tail end, so I missed most of it, and I will re-listen later. But so thank you so much. And I remember in 2006, maybe, when you had your first show with the NSE, beautiful show. And I remember thinking about the concept of Gilles Deleuze's great book, late 60s, is called Difference and Repetition.
Yeah.
He proposed the different, like difference and repetition have a function that is so independent from one another, in that the concepts, it's so different from, let's say, the concepts of sameness, right? Or resemblance or equivalent or similarity and whatnot. In other words, difference may perhaps be internal to the nature of every idea, and how every idea might have multiple elements.
Yeah.
Maybe can be differentiated within that multiple element, but repetition require element that might multiply each other. But they both kind of part of the transformation of the image of thought. And I know that you have gone for us in 2006. I mean, I haven't had a chance to see the show, which I hope to see this Saturday. But still, sameness and repetition, the concept is so different. Different and repetition and whatnot, and you've been using it, deploying it in your work, and I wonder how it have changed. I mean, Lilly already touched on that with the the Spyro form. So it generate the kind of repetitiveness in a way of your deployment of the grid. So maybe that's already answered in pictorial term. But from a personal perspective, how's it been for you in the two differences? Super subtle, Katia, not to say that it's really far different.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I mean, I love that book. I mean, I read it in French years ago. But I think I mean, I can just talk for myself, but I mean, I go back to, the same element and repeat it, and then yes, it's going to be different. Unless I take, a tracing paper, it's going to be, even if it's a tracing paper, there's, I mean, because I made some paintings when I used like one element or like one leaf, for example, and I repeated the leaf, there's always, it's always different. I mean, because I'm a human being, I'm not a computer, I'm not a machine. Yeah. So, depending of my mood, it will be different. Yeah, but I mean, for me to repeat the same gesture, it's always different. I mean, I don't know how to go deeper in the explanation.
Well, the words reveal that differences also.
Right.
If you look hard enough, close enough, it will be sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's just terrific. Thank you so much. And congratulations on the show. I was going to ask a big question about spirituality, but I don't think that's the right time to do it right now.
Next time.
Next time when I see you. Yeah. Thank you, Katia. Thank you, Lilly. Yeah. Send it back to you, Tyhe.
Thank you, Phong. And thank you, Katia, and thank you, Lilly, one more time. And now I'll do the whole set of thank yous at the end of the day. I do have the weird honor of wearing two hats today. At the Rail, we have a tradition of closing with a poetry reading. And today I am so lucky to have not only been able to introduce Lilly and Katia, but also to read from our beloved poetry editor, Anselm Berrigan's new book called Pregrets. Pregrets recently came out with Black Square editions. And this week, the Rail is honoring Anselm and his lovely work by reading an excerpt from it to close out each of our new social environment events. And today I am going to be reading a piece called Regrets, as many of the pieces in the book are called. They all are titled on different variations of the idea of regrets and pregrets. So this is Regrets. Pulled a leaky black 8 from my right hip pocket, bought back all my picks and put my foot through them. Couldn't tell diff between knit and flake, popped a wheelie hole in my short term just this past week, or reasonably like time unit. Didn't chuck phone into East River. Silently ripped on the recycle chant prosody at Climate's March. Couldn't fansplain downs to Kay repeatedly, ever feeling guilty for not learning to drive. Confused and forgot about the inner and outer elements. Made another fucking list. Said writer instead of poet, the customs agent. Wrote out the determining and vital element in the inner one, which controls the outer form, just as an idea in the mind determines the word we use and not vice versa. Which is fucked up because words totally determine ideas in the mind, but no painter's gonna know that. Half spat on all hashtags, dug Botticelli's abundance without the color, remembered stealing the foot through pictures unit, but not where I put it. Not calling back all my fucked up friends, simmering. Sometimes I go through real periods of despair. Painting the airport mural, freeing association from the start to the finished way to create my own despicable earth. The barren road of decoration, true purism, preconceived, having respected a certain internal order, telling the ghost hairball story to my kids, telling the Weiston on the moon story to my kids, making art be lifelike my objective, discovering painting with oil, coloring a dead man, continually drawing from nature, forgetting to wash these ridiculous clothes again. Oh, and now it's
I love this.
Thank you. Thank you. Bravo.
Perfect.
Please get Anselm's book. He is my poetry hero. And thank you again so much, Katia and Lily, for such an amazing conversation on nature and the body and this work today. And thank you all who tuned in for today and for your incredible questions and musings in the chat. As always, we will share the recording of today's program in our YouTube archives. So it'll be available in a day or two if you want to revisit the conversation and make that book list I was talking about. We at the Rail do this every single weekday, so please join us again tomorrow at 1 p.m. for our 54th Radical Poetry Reading, curated by Rajiv Mohabir, featuring Desiree C. Bailey, Aruni Kashyap, Cynthia Dewi Oka. And now you can all turn on your microphones to say goodbye as you leave.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katia. Thanks,
Thank
Lily.
you.
Thanks, Ty.
Go hug a
Thank
tree.
you.
Right?
Yes, go hug a tree.
Yes.
Come to my park. Everybody's hugging trees there.
Thank
Our
you.
assignment.
Like a
All
tree.
right. Thank you.
Love you all.
Bye.
Love the
Thanks,
trees.
everyone.
You.
Go
Congrats,
see the show,
Katia.
you guys. Make sure to see the show.
Yes, hug a tree, see the show.